Good morning, everyone. Let's not be fools today. Aha. Let's see what the market has in store for us. Yeah. All right. So I'm looking at the futures, of course, 24-hour trading. We'll get to SPY and so on. So big reversal day yesterday. Um, was it real? Was it fool at play here? Well, we always look to the left. It was on support, so technically it made sense that buyers would show up there. Um, it was also the end of the quarter. And I had mentioned this JP Morgan collar that closed, and SPX closed pretty darn close to their strike. So what do we do? Well, we look at things the way we always do, systematically, bar by bar. Um, the trend is down. Looking at the daily chart, the trend is down on this instrument. Looking at the weekly chart, and we still got a few days to go to see if the weekly bar looks like that. If it does, it's impressive. But as I said, this is a futures contract. Ultimately, we have to see a bar like that on SPY, SPX, QQQ, and so on. That's why we look at all of the different sectors. So this is pushing up into resistance. Where's it going to go from here? Well, based on that bar in this particular instrument, I would suspect it's going to consolidate a little bit. The bias would be to buy dips. We'll assess the dips. We'll see how far it comes down. And I keep reiterating this instrument because as we look at others, while the analysis would be similar, or we'd come to this, do the same analysis, the structure of the charts will look different. So as always, we would look for the coming days, the closing, the opening closing prices to be in the upper half of this bar, this wide range bar. Tails could be down here. Bias being they're going to buy the dip based on that reversal. And of course, how high will it go? Well, we don't know. But, we'd look at where resistance is and where a probable sell zone would be. I think the highest would be around 6,700 at that declining 20 in this area of congestion, area being the key word. So again, buying dips, however it goes sideways, reversals, it should work its way up until here. Now, we always look to the left. We always apply bar by bar analysis and retracements and all the other concepts which we'll talk about today at MT Live, which really comes down to common sense. We see a bar like this. We see it's the power bar. We know it created a void. We know that there'll be buyers on dips. We know it should go higher. All of those things we believe based on this pattern. Now, if we get a bar, and you know what I'm going to say here, if we get a bar, and if this is common sense, and the end of the day, it looks like that, well, our bias is going to change. So none of us have a crystal ball that's infallible. We do have tools that allow us to objectively look at what's going on and putting it in the context of the prevailing trend in multiple time frames. So now we go and look at others. We always stay flexible and nimble. Exactly, Robert. Objective and have stop losses. So let's move some things around as we look at SPY. So as this was coming down toward this major support level, news coming out, taco trades, this, that, the other thing, whatever, right? It gapped up yesterday, and we know that buyers were going to be down here. And then the news foiled things, so to speak. And while it should have, would have, could have come down here and began to make a nice turn News gapped it up, end of quarter, and it rallied up toward resistance. And looking at that, you see it come up into this area where it fell from. Right? Little void, little push up. Right now, it's gapping higher toward that resistance area, and we know the further it would get up here with a larger overlapping bars, the more sellers there would be, regardless of the power of the move. So now, same thing. The analysis doesn't change. And so we look at this and get a line from our little tools here, and we put a line in the middle of that bar. Just eyeballing it, no measurements, it's about 50%. And in the coming days here, we'd want to see it stay, the opening closes in the upper part of that bar. Maybe it dips down there. Maybe buyers show up. Right? There's an unfilled gap down here. It's not a gap between bars. It's what's called an inside gap. Now, when we see gaps like this in reversals, if this was in an uptrend, I think it would be kind of like a given, so to speak, as much as you could get to be a given, that this would just not fill that gap. In a downtrend, maybe it does, but ideally, what we would see in the S&Ps is any dips down into this area here would get bought. And it's far from that right now. Just coming down toward yesterday's high for the moment. And you can see my cursor as it moves on the daily and the 65-minute chart. So it could dip pretty much, quite a bit. Well, here's the overnight congestion. It's coming down to a pivot. And so I would guess in the white area is the day trading, not day trading per se, but what happened during the trading day. So as I move my cursor here and I see these overlapping bars on the 65-minute, that would make a whole lot of sense that somewhere down here is where buyers are likely to materialize, right? Somewhere in this area, right down there, give or take. Right? So now you'd have it going through the overnight trading there, lower volume, who cares? So that would just give us a downside possible target, and it would still be in the upper half of that bar, give or take. So that's what I'll be looking for to see if it does come down there, whether it makes a higher low, whatever it's going to do. Okay. So reversal there was some news that was shared. Alex and Miles, there's the news. What was the news? I'll read it to you. President Trump posts on Social Truth, Iranian's new regime president, much less radical and far more intelligent than his predecessor, just asked for a ceasefire. We'll consider when the strait is open, free, and clear. Until then, we will blasting Iran into oblivion, shall they say, back to the Stone Ages. Wow. Right? After yesterday's comment, and who knows what today's comments may be, but these comments are playing havoc with the markets, of course, and creating some wild moves as people get obliviated with the comments. You better have your automatic stops in so that you get taken out. Right? So prices are coming down, Q's futures there, same analysis. I don't have to repeat. A little reversal there. Look to the left, see where it comes down to during the trading day. If it pulls down toward that trader pivot line, that's in alignment with some congestion. We'll see how it plays out. The closer it gets to this, what I would just call the kill zone, more sellers are going to begin to show up regardless of whatever the news is. Qs, there you go. Major support. News came in, gapped it up. It's got a void. This is where there should be the greatest opportunity for further upside. What was the weakest can be the one that regains the most, since it lost the most on the way down and created what we call a void. So here's a gap between bars. It's gapping up. It's still well above yesterday's high. So pulling back toward yesterday's high, there should be buyers, give or take. And so I'm just going to drag this up here, somewhere around there. There should be more buyers than just coming back down into yesterday's high. Okay. Let's see what the Russell is doing. So this held up better. We talked about possibly a head and shoulders kind of a bottom, a sloppy one. The right shoulder is a bit too deep to really call it a textbook type. But look, we're not here to measure things, for exactness. We can get the basics down. So more congestion, less opportunity because of that congestion versus the Qs, and it's whipped down as well on the news. So ideally, we'd like to see the same story, meaning some consolidation in the upper half of that bar, chopping around, see if it can make a bottom. Or look, if we're into, I don't know, the end of next week and this hasn't pushed somewhere up here and it's still rattling around here, the odds are we're going to increase is going to go down, but we're far from that. We'll just continue to monitor this, see where we go. Right now, there should be buyers on dips. All right. So Dow futures, right, big bar into resistance. It'll need to go sideways and chop around. So I don't perceive there to be any intraday opportunities there today unless it collapses back down here. And then we'll just see how that does and how everything else does in relation to each other, relative strength and weakness. So we'll monitor this, and today at 12 o'clock in MT Live, we'll review. All right. Bitcoin still doing a lot of nothing, moving sideways. And this is an example of it should have went up, even though it was in a downtrend. It created this void. And it's just chopping around. And I look at this and it's like, is this a head and shoulders top or is this going to turn back up again? The weekly chart is on support. It's extended lower. It's on support over here. So right now, I don't know. We'll just choose to stay away. Oil is down, but you know what? It's not down significantly. I looked even on it was funny. Let me see if it's still there. It was kind of like the same thing with Trump saying one thing about working things out, and then, the other comment about bombing the hell out of them. Anyway, so this isn't collapsing. Yesterday, one of the things I said was, is the market calling bullshit? And so far, if this was collapsing, I'd be like, wow, okay, so they really believe it. No, no, they don't really believe it. But, on a moment to moment basis is jiggling around. All right. Oh, I didn't even, I got it
So,
from where it was earlier because things are jiggling around here. So I got to adjust this. But it came up. See, remember the last couple of days while the markets were moving up, the strikes moved down. And that was like, whatever's going on, it's BS. These moved up about 100 strikes from yesterday. So yesterday's reversal was, let's just say, considered real. So now with the whip back down, uh, down a lot. Okay. So call strike, not in a million years. Going to go up there today. It would take some wild news. Put strike, I'd be careful with that one. Intraday, it could spike down there. So we know it's opening around here. Right? Stay in the upper half of the bar, and we'll see what it does. Right? But in no way possible should it go up there today unless there was like, someone I ran is on a flight to the White House for some whatever. Okay. All right. Gold is moving up. It's moving up toward, let's call it the kill zone, right? Uh, Momentum moved down, 200 MA, stabilize. It's moving up. There's going to be sellers, right? Factory work. It's got the void. And silver, not as strong. Maybe it forms a 1, 2, 3. But look, when you get a momentum move like that from a consolidation, the first buy setup is rarely going to be the place that you want to get in if you're thinking intermediate term. Short-term trades, yeah, why not? But patterns like this typically go lower, unless they go sideways long enough. So before I hand it over to Dan, this is impressive. As I mentioned yesterday, look, this broke down. The semiconductors should go lower, but if it could regain and get up there, that would be something to pay attention to. So it's not out of the woods, but that's a damn good sign. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Definitely, yeah, that's a monster reversal. And Don, nobody took my $1,000 bet. I I was bullish yesterday. I thought we were going to hold. We did. And interesting, we already made my second target pre-market. I gave a target for yesterday, day trading. And then I said, look at the daily here. This guy said the gap fill, 656. Look at pre-market, 657. And that's when I sent out a telegram saying I I have a bias now to do a call spread, 30-minute low. I don't know if there's any 10 o'clock numbers, but downtrend, big powerful gap that was not selling off yesterday. And I said my bias all day was 2 to 3 day bounce and a downtrend with cooked internals. But now that we're gapping it up, it's going to make it harder. We were talking about that in great detail also. How do you trade things like this? And I said exactly that. It's going to be up another bar, and then it's less attractive than it was yesterday in terms of getting on board and chasing something. We did put on a couple trades, but on things that had significantly better patterns like this. Netflix, we bought a call. IGV, bottoming pattern, bought a half lot. I didn't give this, but I mentioned it. This Casey, that's a beautiful bull rectangle. Flagpole, tight consolidation in the upper half. That was beautiful. Microsoft, we did a put spread. I know Alex did directional, and I said, sure. There's so many things that they're just different looking bounce candidates and downtrends. But yeah, Climo, 2 to 3 day bounce. GPZ, this is a private credit ETF. Bought that into the close yesterday. Bottoming pattern, Climo weekly, HPE we bought yesterday afternoon on this afternoon breakout. Buy setup, potent reversal. And we still have these two shorts. Qualcomm, relative weakness. Look at those moving averages. So we bought a bear put debit spread on that. Actually, 2 days ago. And then this one, we did a bear 1, 2, 3. So just let it play out. And we also did Dell put spread. Gapping up here at resistance. So I said 5-minute low. Let's kill half of the put spread. I sent that by Telegram. My voice is still not fixed. So annoying. Let's go. There's a couple of earnings here. Oh, Oracle, I like. One of you mentioned it yesterday in the room as a bottoming pattern. So Thomas, you sometimes yell at me that we never buy on support. And I say that's just an incorrect statement. And here's an example. Here's a bottoming pattern. Look how many times it's been tested. So that this is your entry. Buying at the bottom of a bottoming pattern on major support with, you have the analogy. If I'm wrong, I'm falling out of the, the ground floor window. It's not, buying this gap breakout up here. Like, where's your stop? SLV. Yeah, I mean, it looks higher. It's a closing breakout with a void. So I think you all are kind of talking two different trades. It's a bear 1, 2, 3, 4 on the weekly. We're unless we're trading something in an uptrend like Casey. I mean, look at these three M8s. If you were to look at this stock, you would have no clue that the broader market is in a tantrum zone. So I'd say most things were kind of trading garbage. I mean, of course, there's exceptions. Look, Dell's in an uptrend above all three MAs. That we should do that later. Just scan things above their 20 MA. 20 is the quickest, right? So that's going to have the fewest stocks above it. Longer term, obviously more, but Dell is strong. Netflix, one of the strongest fangs, closed above all MAs. Circle. Yeah. Yeah, I like them. Yeah. I mean, this is not that's an igniting ugly bar, but the rest of them are fluid and a turn with a void. So target may be a bounce to the 20 MA, which would be a very nice trade. So yes, sir, Thomas, that's going in the window. Both for directionally and put spread. Yeah, I like it. All right. Oil, you see, I got all four oils here. They're down. We've been mentioning that the last 2 days that they look topping. So we should scan those sectors for some call spreads. It's semi-strong. This one is lagging, of course. But here, what's this high? 208. So see this one, I'm gonna set an alarm at 208.20. Because that would be a great put spread. What's today? Wednesday over Monday's high, over that ugly red bar. That would be a good put spread. So 208.20. Look at Axon. There's no turn yet, but beat up. They were talking about some of these stocks on the news that are down so much. Estee Lauder. Let's say this is like Microsoft. It's just a bounce and a downtrend. But here, look at SMI. Is there a higher low retest? That one I like. I'm gonna put that in a window. SMCI. That's a beautiful, that's a, this is still your flagpole. But that's a W bottom with a higher low. So, and it's very clean. Look at how the bars were formed. Fluid, not tails, overlapping bars. Look at Home Depot is a sloppier attempted, or not attempted, possible double bottom. Let's set an alarm at 3:31. So we would start with a put spread. Look at his cousin, LOW, sloppier, but put spread idea. There's XHB, sloppier, but you can see it could be the start. We got Climos on the weekly. Let's go to earnings here. I deleted a bunch already. Nike getting killed. I'm going to watch that. Possible gap and snap. And today would be one DTE put spread because Friday's off. So these are earnings right now. It's gapping up, not chasing, but had that open flat. I would say you could day trade yesterday's high. Nichino, gap's too big, but that's an igniting gap from a bottoming pattern. Nichino play a lot of leisure stocks, so they're starting to bottom also. Check out, cruise ships. Look at CCL. Well, that's a nice rectangle consolidation. Look at jets. I wouldn't call it nice, but it's potential bottom. All right, PVH took off. Shoot, I was hoping for a 1, 2, 3, and then that would have been nice. RH excessive gap. I got that on the bottom right. Watching for stabilization and a 1 DTE put spread. Riley. Don, do you remember that book, The Life of Riley? I don't know if I've ever read that or not. But that's this guy right here, Riley. He's doing nothing. That's a garbage potential bounce trade, CAG. There, that done. CAG. I'm not sure how big the target is, but that could be a day trade long if it sets up. Maybe a 30-minute high and 1 DT here. All right, we're taking off here. CAG. Yeah, that's a 10-minute high. That looks good, CAG. I got them in a window. All right, AMD alarm. Gapped over the red bar. Let me check. Oh, they're going to be spready at the open, but I'll get a general idea. For tomorrow, I'm sorry. Yeah, tomorrow's Thursday. 195. 35 cents. No premium, so you'd have to go out to next week, which might be okay. Home Depot here, this could be the home run entry in terms of nailing the entry on the double bottom. So see down, there's another example where we buy on support, the bottom of consolidation patterns and W bottoms. By definition, we're buying on the turn on support. That's the Home Depot. I would do the 322s for tomorrow. 43 by 130. So that's nuts. But maybe 30-minute high. I will consider going out to next week. So let's just set the alarm higher and come back to you. LOW. It's just sloppier. Now, another potential buying at the bottom of a consolidation pattern. Not consolidation, bottoming pattern, similar to Oracle. All right, so Oracle I gave as a put spread. Let me check the juice bar now on Oracle. I said 137.30 for next week. CAG got slammed back down, so no interest in that. All right, market's making a turn here, so that's good for the bulls. Next week, 137. 137, 130, 84. Oh, we're right there. Perfect. So Oracle's a go. So it filled perfectly. My estimate of 85 on the pullback. 148.15. Right, Dell, I said 5-minute low for half. So that would be 164.75. Yeah, all right. Currently got 152.5. 152. Oh, we're actually at our target. Let's see. But this 30-minute high looks like a directional for a bounce to 180. So let's put Dell on the list here. Here, let me get G. All right, so let's just close. Yeah, we're in that from yesterday, I think, John. I think that's the one. Yeah, you can add. John, looks good. Yeah, looks good, HP. HER, yeah, looks good. Nice, beautiful relative weakness, closing breakdown. Looks good. Really. Top of the range, but I like the consolidation at resistance. It's worth watching. If it takes out last week's high, would kind of really be the entry. I think it could plug towards 30 maybe. Let me see if we can do a put spread in the meantime. 25.50, 1 penny for tomorrow. Spreads are asinine. The 25.50s for next week are 7 cents by 75. That is preposterous. That's insane. But yeah, it's worth watching. All right, Home Depot alarm, I reset it, SMCI alarm. There you go, SMCI. Must be a great put spread and day trade I like too. For day trade, I'd give it a stop. Maybe start off under 22 and then 30-minute high, raise it to the day's low. That's the low. To 21. 21.18 is right at 30 cents. How comfortable are we with 9 DTEs right now? That's the problem.
That was the news stock. I'd stay away from it.
Greg, I got my speaker on max, Greg, and I still am having a hard time hearing you.
No idea, Dan.
There, that was better. So what'd you say about news?
That's the company where the people got arrested for selling things to China.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, China sells things to us. They were just being nice.
I'm just making you aware. You can do whatever you want.
And my bigger concern is
They
90.
illegally selling them chips to China.
I know, I'm teasing. I mean, news is the biggest problem of 90 TE or even holding over night. And that's actually what kept me less bullish, I'll say, or